Hello, everyone. It's Sydney Young, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Rho Omega Chapter's Ivy Leaf reporter. Welcome to a special Black HERstory Month feature. Today, I'm honored to sit down with my sorority sister, Dr. Yolanda Holt, a true trailblazer in her field of speech-language pathology. Yolanda's unwavering commitment to uplifting our community and empowering others has left an indelible mark on so many lives. In this interview, she'll share her journey, her passion, and the wisdom she's gained along the way. So grab a seat and let's dive in as we celebrate the incredible contributions of Black women like Yolanda this month and every month. Thank you so much, Sorry Yolanda, for agreeing to be our Black HERstory highlight and feature this month. We are so proud of the work that you're doing. I told you on the way into this interview, I am fangirling you so hard right now and totally nerding out on the wonderful work that you're doing. So tell us a little bit more about how you got started in your career and what are your focuses now?
Okay, so I started out as a speech language pathologist. I'm currently a faculty member at East Carolina University in the Department of Speech and Hearing Sciences.
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates, which is, some people know that as SLP,
Okay.
speech pathologist. Maybe I need a speech pathologist.
That's all right.
Yeah. The way I got started is when I started my undergraduate career at Western Carolina, I was actually interested in political science. I worked in that area for a little while, decided later on that I wanted to work in another area, and went to graduate school at North Carolina Central in speech, language pathology, and audiology.
Okay.
When I was in the program, I kept hearing about how Black boys couldn't read, and that was a problem, and that was something that we needed to address, and we needed to make sure that Black children had access to services, and Black boys can't read, and I kept hearing that over and over. I'm the oldest of 8. I have one sister and 6 brothers.
Wow.
And all of my 6 brothers could read with no problem, and I saw that there was a disconnect between what was being taught and what my lived experience was as a Black woman.
Right.
I have Black sons, I have a Black husband, and I just didn't have that experience. The more that I learned about it, the more I recognized that there was a limited amount of research on Black people in the discipline of speech, language pathology, and audiology, and also in education, except from a deficit perspective, where they would find people who had difficulty with something, study those people, and never actually look at people who were doing well.
Right. I'm sure that greatly impacts the way that research is carried out, the way that even products are marketed to us, and all kinds of things. So I'm actually really curious to know more about your research on dialect modeling, and how it can improve the accuracy and inclusivity of voice assistants. So we're talking things like Siri, Alexa, Google Gemini, all of those things. I find that work to be fascinating. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so the big idea is that when you're talking to Siri or Google or Alexa or any of those devices, it's a mechanical listener.
Okay.
So if we think about a child who grows up in our community, and we're going to assume that the majority of our listeners are African American, but you could be from a different community. Kids sound like the community that's around them.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if Google, Siri, Alexa, etc. have a community that doesn't include Black people,
wow,
then they wouldn't have as good an understanding of what we would consider Black English. The thing with Black English is it's just not the way that we produce words. It's not just the way that we say sounds. You can have a whole conversation with, girl, I know what?
As, right.
Exactly, right? And so the idea of communication is not just the words and the way that we say things, but the context that you put it in, the way you order the words, where you put emphasis on a word, right? Where does the emphasis go? All of those pieces go together, and you learn it in your community. So when research is being conducted, if we're excluded from that research process, that means that the way that we use and organize and understand language is not part of the algorithm that goes into Google or Siri or Alexa or any of those products. Well, what difference does that make? Well, if you think about what's happening right now, we are seeing that the Department of Education is being changed in ways that we can't know what the future will hold. We do know that as that money is lost, we don't have the money for teachers, for teacher training, for teacher education, and we have the expectation that maybe they would use AI technology in the classroom. So if the AI has never heard a little black girl or a little black boy talk, then the likelihood of the AI misconstruing what that child produced as just regular old English as being impaired or disabling increases exponentially.
My brain just exploded into a million pieces because that can definitely impact the overall trajectory of a little black boy's life. If, and we see it so often, especially in my field, we're often misdiagnosed as having, these really big troubling diagnoses, and we find out later like maybe there's a learning disability, or maybe we're often put the title of ADHD when really they're bored and they're not stimulated enough.
Exactly.
But I imagine in this case being misinterpreted or misunderstood based on not having the foundational structure of AI that understands Black speak, Black English, it could set them on a trajectory that informs the way that they function for the rest of their lives.
It does, and it does it in two ways. The first way is kind of on the surface makes perfect sense. The AI is wrong, right? It's made a mistake, and there's not a classroom teacher who's been trained and educated to know that what the AI did is wrong. How many times have we used a calculator or any technology and you're like, wait a minute, that's not right?
Right.
Most of the time we'll think that the calculator or the AI or whatever it is we're using is correct.
Right. We just make the assumption.
We make the assumption
it's never wrong.
It's correct because somebody created a product for us. And we have to start with that assumption that it's probably not right? But we don't do that. And it's easy, it's cheaper, etc. The other way is telling that child that something's wrong with them, the way that they came into the room. We can think about that in the number of ways, the way that children look, the way they walk, the way they talk, the way their hair comes out of their head,
That's right.
the way their lips are on their face, the color of their skin. So all of those things are part of what makes you feel welcome in the classroom. When we put an AI in the classroom and we've done no vetting, we didn't check its credentials, we just assume that it's going to do a job, we abdicate our authority and our agency to a machine. And why in the world would you want to do that?
No, we wouldn't.
No. And so that's part of the research that we do, is to make sure that we're collecting information, collecting data from people who are not just African American, it's Southern Americans as well. So if you're Black and you're Southern, you're doubly impacted by this. So Southern American English sounds different than standardized English, and that's what the AI is used to. If you've ever tried to use Alexa or Siri or Google and you know it's going to get wrong and you and your friends laugh about it, that's cute in the moment. But for a child that's trying to acquire their education, it can be devastating. And it's actually a waste of money.
Right. I mean, Siri jacks up my name all the time.
All the
Sydney,
time.
and it's like calling Sienna. I'm like, who is that?
Exactly. And so when we're thinking about saving money and making the best use of our resources, we wouldn't want Alexa or Siri or Google or whatever the AI is to have us putting children into special ed when the kids are fine. They need to be in regular ed, and they can be served in the classroom. They can be growing with the rest of the class, and we can be using those resources for other things that are more important, like classroom teacher training and education.
That comes from such a deeply rooted social advocacy place in your heart. I can tell you have to really have a passion and a love for people and our people, all people, but to do this work, especially centered around the Black experience, you have to have a lot of passion for the social advocacy piece and just wanting to see us in our community thrive.
100%.
Oh, I love that. Okay. What advice would you give to young Black scholars interested in linguistic research and communication sciences?
Okay, so that's a great question. So number one, off the top, you can do it. As soon as you say you want to do it and you make up your mind that you're going to do it, you can do it. There will be people who will look at you like, what are you doing? What does this have to do with anything that you're interested in? You don't speak multiple languages. None of that matters. What you want to do is find a mentor who's willing to work with you wherever you are. If you're at an HBCU, if you're at a PWI, you can always reach out to me. I'll make sure that my contact details are in the information that we share out with everyone. You can do that work. Thing number two is that it's actually hard. And the reason that it's hard is because people don't look at things from the perspective that we're okay, we're correct, and what we're doing has value and adds value to the research enterprise. And you wouldn't think that would be true in 2025, but when we look around at what's happening to us globally and here in the United States of America, we can see that many times people that come from a background that's not standardized from the perspective of standardized American English, you're looked at in a particular way. Do you code switch? Can you code switch? Should you code switch? Those are personal preferences. Like, do you want to speak Japanese? Do you want to speak German? You can do everything that you do speaking African American or Black American English, Southern American English, or what other flavor of English that you use. The final thing is it's going to require you to put in effort in terms of knowing and understanding yourself and building community in the research environment. Most people just want to be published, they want to be funded, and so if you're willing to do the hard work, stick to it, and go through it, you'll be successful.
I love that. So the first thing is you can do it. It will be hard, and stick to it, find a good mentor. Thank you so much for offering to put your information out there. I know that somebody's going to see this and be like, okay, I can do this, and I'll make sure that I can reach out to her to help me along the way.
Yes.
When you think about your legacy in this field, how do you hope that you'll be remembered?
So I do two things. We're talking here. I am a person who advocates for African American English, Black American English, Black people, Southern people, all of those things. But we are part of the fabric of America. The legacy that I hope to put forward is to normalize Blackness.
That's right.
To normalize Blackness so that people understand when they're studying American English and they're studying people in America that we are part of that culture and we should be part of the research enterprise, period. We don't need to be a special part or set apart. We need to be part of the entirety of what's happening. The other thing I think is to make sure that people feel welcome, that the research that I write has both an academic aspect to it and then a public or popular way to approach. Some of the things that I write are for public consumption so people can read and think about it, what we were talking about with AI in the classrooms. And for people to ask those questions and not be afraid to take a step out on your own, even if you're a consumer scientist, a person that's in the community, to ask questions and expect a reasonable answer.
Right. No, thank you so much for not only this interview, but for the work you're doing. I am excited about things like Siri and Alexa. I want to be able to speak Ebonics and Black talk and language and be like, hey, yo, Alexa, holler at Carla, and it knows to call my friend Carla.
Exactly. I
think that is so cool.
If it's in your home, it should be something that you can use in a way that you feel most comfortable with. But this is the part that I want to kind of add on that people don't think about. If she can't understand, and I'm going to say she for all of these products, if she can't understand Black English, what about a person that has a stroke?
Wow, yeah.
What about a person that has myasthenia gravis? What about a person that has ALS? What about a person who's had some kind of traumatic injury that wants to remain in their home so that their spouse can go to the store and they could request assistance? So if they can't understand regular Black folks, then why would we have an expectation that these products are appropriate for uses in the home for things like that, right? And that's the next step with these products, because right now they're toys. They could be used for so much more, but we have to make sure that they're equitable,
yes,
and inclusive,
right,
and have some sense of diversity in the way that people are able to access them.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and again your research. Thank you.
Great.